Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
This book tells the story of Singapore. Singapore is a small country, mainly one city on an island. Today, it is one of the richest countries in the world. This is a surprising story because not long ago, Singapore was a very poor place. The man who was the main leader for many years was Kuan. He led the country for over 30 years and is often called the father of modern Singapore. His son also became a leader much later. He decided to leave the top job after many years, just as his father had done. Singapore's journey from being a poor island to a rich city happened very quickly in just a few decades. People often discuss Singapore's government system. It has very strong control. Some people describe it as a type of dictatorship because of the strict laws and rules for people. One of the main good points is very low corruption, which is rare for many nations. However, the cost for the people of Singapore is limited personal freedom. There are many cameras watching in public places, and rules are enforced very strictly. Life is very safe, clean, and well organized. How did Singapore build this unique country? It is a system with strong leadership and strict control. Many people around the world respect and admire Singapore for its progress and wealth. This book will explore how Singapore created this globally admired dictatorship. 2. A small island start. Singapore is a small country on an island. It is located in Southeast Asia, between the large countries of Malaysia and Indonesia. Singapore is unique because it is both a city and a country. It is smaller in size than New York City. But today, Singapore is a very wealthy place, one of the top 10 richest countries in the world, even though it only became independent about 60 years ago. For a long time, Singapore was a British colony. The British established it as a trading post in 1819. Its location is very important because it is right on the Singapore Strait. This strait is a key part of the main sea route connecting countries like China and Japan with Europe. The strait is also quite narrow, about 16 kilometers wide, making its location easy to control for trade. The harbor at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula was perfect for loading and unloading goods moving across the world. After World War II, big changes happened in Asia. European countries that owned colonies became weaker. People in these colonies started strong movements to gain their freedom. Nearby Indonesia declared independence from the Netherlands in 1945. There was fighting, but Indonesia became fully independent in 1949. In Malaya, which was part of the British Empire, people also wanted to be independent. Many people from China had moved to Malaya and Singapore over many years. They came to find work, often escaping problems in their home country. In Malaya, they often worked on British farms. In Singapore, they found jobs more easily in the busy port. Because of this, about 3/4 of the people in Singapore were ethnic Chinese. After the Communist Party won the Civil War in China in 1949, some Chinese people in Malaya and Singapore became interested in communist ideas. This worried the British rulers. They were slow to give Singapore independence because they feared that communists could take power there. Singapore's port was very important for trade. It was a center where raw materials like rubber and spices from the region were processed and shipped to Europe. This made Singapore prosperous for a time. But after the old colonial empires ended, countries like Malaysia and Indonesia wanted to handle their own trade directly. They developed their own ports. This meant Singapore's role as a trade middleman started to become less important. When Singapore finally became independent, it was not rich or strong. It was a very small island with no natural resources at all. It even had to import its fresh water from Malaysia. Most of its people lived in poor conditions. Around 70% of the population lived in simple houses or slums. Singapore did not have advanced technology or factories. Its economy was based on trade, but that trade was declining. It was a very difficult situation. Singapore was a small city-state facing big economic problems, with few advantages and an uncertain future. Not many leaders wanted to take on the challenge of ruling such a poor country. This was the difficult beginning for the small island nation. 3. A new leader. After the war, new leaders appeared in Singapore. A group of young, educated people started a political party. They called it the People's Action Party, or PAP. One important leader was Kuan. Many of these young leaders came from richer families and had studied in other countries. Kuan wanted to connect with all the people in Singapore. The city had people from different backgrounds who spoke different languages, like Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Kuan learned Malay and Tamil, and he also learned Chinese better. His main language before was English. The PAP talked to people about better jobs, homes, and education. In the first election, the PAP won many seats. Kuan became the prime minister. He was the main leader of Singapore. First, Kuan thought Singapore should join its neighbor, Malaya. Malaya had a large area and Singapore had an important port, so they formed a new country called Malaysia. But this union did not work well. The government in Malaysia had policies that helped the Malay people more than the Chinese. Singapore had many Chinese people. Also, Malaysia worried about Singapore's economy growing faster. They made trade difficult for Singapore. The disagreements grew. The Malaysian government decided that Singapore should leave Malaysia. This was not planned by Singapore's leaders. On August 9, 1965, Singapore became an independent country alone. Kuan announced this on television. He was very emotional and cried. Singapore was a very small island with no natural resources and many poor people. Many people thought it could not survive on its own, but Kuan was determined to make Singapore strong. 4. Enemies all around. After independence, Singapore was in a difficult and dangerous place. Its neighbors, Malaysia and Indonesia, were not friendly. They had a conflict at that time, and Singapore was in the middle. The leader of Indonesia even wanted Singapore to become part of his country. There were real dangers. In one case, a bomb planted by people from Indonesia exploded in Singapore in 1965. Also, some politicians in Malaysia wanted Singapore to join Malaysia again, by force if needed. They wanted to remove Singapore's leader, Kuan. Singapore's military was very small and not strong, with only 2 small groups of soldiers. Many soldiers were Malay people, which caused problems with the neighboring country. Protecting the country was the most important thing. It was more important than building the economy at first. Singapore needed to build its own strong army quickly. This needed money. But Singapore did not have much money. Also, corruption was a big problem in Singapore. People in government and public jobs often took bribes. Corruption made it hard to build the economy. Foreign businesses did not want to come because they thought their money would be stolen by dishonest officials. Lee Kuan Yew decided to start a strong fight against corruption. He changed the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, which the British had started. Before, this office only stopped small corruption, like a worker taking a small gift. Important people in power were not investigated. Lee Kuan Yew put the CPIB directly under him. He gave the CPIB special powers. They could look at bank accounts of officials and their families. If someone had money they could not explain, they were investigated by law. This rule was for everyone. Even a high minister who was a friend of Lee Kuan Yew was sent to prison for taking bribes. This showed that no one was above the law. Singapore also made its government finances open. A person called the Auditor General could check all government money and report to the Parliament. These reports were made public. This made sure people knew where the government's money was going. It was a new and modern idea, even for many richer countries at that time. Singapore also decided to pay its government officials very high salaries. The idea was that if they earned a lot of money honestly, they would not feel the need to take bribes. Lee Kuan Yew's salary was very high compared to other leaders in the region. These steps made Singapore one of the countries with the least corruption in the world. But stopping corruption was only the first step. Singapore was still a small country with many people out of work. It needed much more to grow and become safe and prosperous. The government had to find ways to bring in money from other countries and create jobs for its people. 5. Building a strong country. After Singapore became independent, it faced big problems. The country needed money from other countries fast. Many people did not have jobs. Unemployment was high, around 14%. The government, led by Lee Kuan Yew, had to find ways to create work and make the economy grow quickly. One plan was to bring more tourists to Singapore. They made old parts of the city look nice again, like Chinatown. They also started night markets and special events to attract visitors. A new symbol for Singapore was created, the Merlion, a creature with a lion's head and a fish's body. This helped people around the world know Singapore. The government also wanted businesses from other places to come. They talked to companies in Hong Kong and Taiwan. They asked them to open factories and offices in Singapore. To make this happen, they made it very simple for foreign companies. Instead of going to many different government offices, investors could go to one place to get help and permission. Singapore also offered tax breaks to these companies. By 1975, these efforts worked. The number of people without jobs was much lower, about 4.5%. Building a strong army was also very important. Singapore felt unsafe with neighbors who were sometimes unfriendly. Singapore worked to get weapons and train soldiers. A small country called Israel gave Singapore help and advice to build its military. Singapore bought tanks and army vehicles from Israel in 1968. Around this time, Britain made a decision. It would close its military bases in Asia, including in Singapore. This was a problem because many Singaporeans worked at these bases, but Singapore saw a chance. They did not just want money from Britain, they wanted to use the old bases. They changed the places where ships were fixed into places for civilian ships. Old army camps became places for students or visitors. An old military airport became a top civilian airport. Singapore used these places in useful ways for the future. This helped the country become stronger and ready for the future. 6. From poor to rich, Singapore needed to build its economy. Britain was closing military bases, which meant many people could lose jobs. Kuan visited Malta, another island with British bases, to learn. Malta just gave money to the local workers. Kuan did not want this for Singapore. He asked Britain for the military land and buildings instead. Britain agreed and also gave Singapore some money. Singapore used the money and land well. Old military shipyards became places to fix civilian ships. Army bases became places for students or hotels. A military airport became a top civilian airport. This was a smart plan to use the old British property. To attract businesses from other countries, Singapore looked for new ideas. Kuan talked to experts at Harvard University. They gave advice on how to get big Western companies to come to Singapore. The world was changing. Moving goods by sea became faster and cheaper with large containers. Singapore had a good port for this new way of trade. Kuan also visited the United States. He spoke to important businessmen in New York. He told them Singapore was a perfect place for their money. He promised to make it easy and fast to start businesses there. He said his government would remove problems quickly. To make the city attractive for foreign investors, Singapore worked hard to be clean and green. They planted trees and made parks. News about Singapore being a good place spread among businessmen. Language was also important. Singapore had people who spoke different languages like Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. The government made English a main language for education and business. This helped people in Singapore understand each other and made it easy for international companies to work there. Many people in Singapore became good at speaking English. This helped Singapore connect with the rest of the world for trade and business. Singapore also wanted to be a center for banks and money. Its time zone was good. When banks in the United States closed, the workday in Singapore was starting. This meant money could be moved between America, Asia, and Europe easily through Singapore. Big international banks came, such as Citibank and JP Morgan. Singapore was careful about giving licenses to banks. They wanted strong and safe banks. For example, they did not let a new bank from Luxembourg open, even if it had rich owners, because it had no history. This careful approach helped Singapore's financial system stay strong and stable. Because Singapore chose its banks wisely, it was not hurt badly by the Asian financial crisis in 1997. Many nearby countries had big problems, but Singapore was okay. Singapore's economy grew a lot. A few years after the crisis, the money per person in Singapore was much higher than in many other countries, including its neighbors like Malaysia. Singapore quickly moved from being a poor, newly independent country to one of the richest in the world. 7. Life in the Lion City. Life in Singapore follows clear rules. The government has strict laws. Breaking these laws can bring severe punishments. For example, in 1993, an American teenager, Michael Fay, damaged cars by painting them. A court decided he should be caned, a physical punishment. The U.S. President, Bill Clinton, asked Singapore not to do this, but the punishment happened. The President of Singapore reduced the strokes from 6 to 4, showing good relations. Selling chewing gum is mostly not allowed. Bringing it in to sell can result in a very large fine of $70,000. This rule started in 1992. It was to stop people sticking gum in public places, like on subway doors. Littering is also serious. If you throw trash, you can get heavy fines, hundreds of dollars. To help enforce laws, Singapore uses much surveillance. Cameras are almost everywhere. Robots also patrol areas and record things. This system helps police find people who break rules. Owning a car is very expensive and difficult. There are many people in a small area. To buy a car, you need a special paper that costs a lot, often more than the car itself. It is only for 10 years. This rule helps control cars and prevent traffic jams. However, Singapore has excellent public transport. It is one of the best globally, making travel easy without a car. Healthcare is also very good. The number of babies who die is lower than in many wealthy countries like the US or Germany. Singapore plans for the future. In the late 1960s, it attracted companies making semiconductors, parts for electronics. This was successful. Today, Singapore is a major player in this industry worldwide. The country tries to attract smart people. They invite top scientists to work in research centers. The government offers good labs and support. Singapore also makes it easy to do business. It ranks high globally. You can start a company quickly online. The strong banking system helps businesses get global money. Because of this environment, many new tech companies, startups have started. Many are worth over $1 billion. These successful startups create jobs and help the economy grow. 8. A leader steps down. Lee Kuan Yew served as the Prime Minister of Singapore for 3 decades. He led the country for a very long time, starting from the early days of independence in the 60s. But in 1990, after 30 continuous years in the top job, he decided it was time for a change. He was 67 years old when he chose to step down from his powerful position. This was a significant moment for Singapore. He had several reasons for his retirement. He often spoke about how difficult the Prime Minister's job was. It needed his full attention and energy every single day, and carried very heavy responsibilities for the future of the nation. He felt that the position itself did not come with many special benefits for him personally, apart from the high salary which he saw as necessary for attracting capable people to public service. Lee Kuan Yew also thought about how businesses work, especially big companies in the United States. He had learned from discussions with leaders of these companies that it is healthy for new people to take charge sometimes. He noted that many company heads plan their retirement and stepped down around 65, after setting up good systems for their successors to continue the work smoothly. He believed this idea of planning for the next leader and ensuring a smooth transition was important for Singapore too. He knew that people and businesses from other countries who invested money and built companies in Singapore watched carefully who was in charge. They needed to trust that the country was well managed, not just by him, but by future leaders too, for many years to come. Kuan strongly believed in choosing leaders based on their ability, skills, and hard work. He called this principle meritocracy. He felt it was the best and fairest way to ensure Singapore had strong and good government. The most skilled and capable people, he believed, should be the ones leading the country's future. He was proud of what Singapore had achieved, growing from a poor island to a rich and successful nation in just a few decades. However, he often reminded people that this past success was not a promise or guarantee of future prosperity. To keep succeeding in the changing world, Singapore needed strong, capable leaders in the future. He reflected on the unique way Singapore had developed and how important good leadership had been throughout this rapid progress. His decision to step down after 30 years showed his commitment to planning for the country's long-term future, beyond his own time as leader. What do you think is the most important lesson other countries can learn from Singapore's story? Let us know in the comments.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.